أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى.
In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate, all praises to Allah, the Creator of the universes and their Sustainer, the Provider of believers and unbelievers. And may His choicest blessings be on the seal of His prophets, the last of His messengers and His holy progeny, and in particular, may His incessant blessings flow on that beloved daughter of the Holy Prophet, on Tahira, Mutahhara, Muhaddisa, Fatimatu Zahra, Salamullahi alayha. Last night we were considering those beautiful names close to Allah related to Bibi Fatema Zahra Salamullahi alayha. We considered the name Fatima in particular, the center point of all her names, the extinguisher of fire. For her and those who follow her and those who are attached to her. We considered the name Siddiqa, we considered the name Tahira, we considered the name Zakiya when we paused till today. But in that consideration of that name Zakiya, we were considering the chastity of the lady, and chastity not only from the angle of association with people not in the prohibited degrees, but also in respect of chastity in the use of various limbs, be they eyes or ears, or be they the power of touch or the other limbs, and considered how she would not even meet the blind person because she was not in veil at the time. All those embodiments of Zakiya. But apart from those facts, the physical application, there is the spiritual angle to it too. The Zakiya, the cleanliness, the purity of the soul. And what soul can we say was more pure on earth than that of Bibi Fatema Zahra Salamullahi alayha? And it is that quality of the purity of soul, more of which we shall inshallah discuss tomorrow night when we discuss her character and her teachings in particular. Indeed, that word Zakiya is best illustrated in Surah Shams when Allah says, قد نفسها فقد نفسها زكاها. The soul, he takes an oath. He takes an oath by the nafs, by the soul, which is purified, which has made itself zakiyah. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَهَاهَا وَالنَّفْسِ وَمَا زَكَّاهَا. Those exactly are the words. By that soul which has purified itself. That is the level to which Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam had attained herself to make herself worthy of that name, Zakiyah. So her purity was both from the spiritual angle and from the physical angle. And we shall tonight, inshallah, see examples of how that purity of soul lifted her to the level of that recognition. And tomorrow night, more of it, inshallah. Then the other names that follow are Radiyatul Maradiyah, both of those taken together. Radiyah, one best pleased with what Allah has granted her. Now that is a level also of being Zakiyah. It's a level at which you are pleased with what Allah gives you. Now that is a level best illustrated when I remind you of what we touched on yesterday regarding the various afflictions that it fell upon her. I made a broad statement which I said will keep getting elaborated every night, and its contribution for tonight is this, that the statement was that right from her birth to her martyrdom, her entire life was beset with afflictions of one nature or another. Be it of one nature or another, but the entire life you find is afflicted with misfortunes of worldly nature. Difficulties rather than the word misfortunes. Difficulties of one nature or another. And I was saying that in relation to her epithet Zahra. Well, yet she lived through all those afflictions without a murmur or a complaint. She lived through them as part of her life. She is born, and we saw how she was born, the circumstances in which she was born, and how the ladies refused assistance to her mother, and how she provided assistance to her mother. Now that is being radi with what Allah has given, rather than complain to Allah about it, giving solace even to her mother about the state of affairs in which her birth was going to take place. Having been born, she was soon found in the Sha'b Abu Talib, where her mother could not even provide sufficient food for everybody. Her father managed to bring only a little food, and that little food that was left was shared between the Holy Prophet and Bibi Khadija. A subject we discussed 3 years ago. That is how that part of life was spent. And the moment that part of life is over, Bibi Khadija alayhi salam leaves her. She is orphaned at that little age. Well, how does one account for that kind of life? And thenceforward, the hijrah was perhaps the most difficult part of her life. And we discussed that last year. And when she got into Medina, there were afflictions of one nature after another. Badr, followed by Uhud, followed by Ahzab, followed by Khaybar, followed by Hudaybiyah. Name them, and they were there. And yet, Fatima Zahra alayha salam lives through them in glory and in splendor. She is then, in those periods of time, she is Zahra. Whenever she is looked upon, she was still glamorous. She was a shining spirit that gave her father the kind of courage spiritually, this kind of support morally that he needed. She had likewise helped her mother. But even Imam Ali alayhi salam always said, in the lifetime of Bibi Fatema Zahra, and even after the martyrdom of Bibi Fatema Zahra, he always said that whenever I looked at Fatima, all my distresses vanished. That is Radiyah. So pleased with whatever Allah gives to her, that Allah himself subhanahu wa ta'ala decides that is a lady who so satisfied with me is entitled to the name near me of Radiya. And the last example I want to give, only because we have touched on this yesterday, day before rather, the hadith that we considered of how Hassanain alayhim salam was sick, and how we just touched on it because the hadith is very well known, how at every iftar time a person came and asked for help. Miskinan wa yatiman wa asira, 3 category of people on 3 different nights. All the breads made by those pious hands of Bibi Fatema to Zahra were given away. Children now in shaken state, the Holy Prophet visits them. Because the children, of course, had gone to meet the Holy Prophet entirely to give him his grandfatherly respect. He saw their condition. He wanted to meet Fatima to Zahra alayha salam herself. So he visits her. And where does he find Bibi Fatima Zahra? By then, there was nothing in the house to cook. All that barley that there was made of bread which was already given away. She was not engaged in worldly activities. Where would you expect to find her? In a bed because she was too weak after 3 days of hunger and thirst? Would you expect her to be in a corner, unable to move? No, the Holy Prophet says he found her on her prayer mat in the ibadah of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Actually in the state of salah, and the Holy Prophet had to stop and wait for her until she finished her namaz to be able to speak to her. Now that level of satisfaction, that even in that degree of sacrifice and accomplishment in the path of Allah, in engagement towards spiritual upliftment, that is the important point. That is what makes her Zakiya, makes her Radiya, makes her Mardiya, the one who has well pleased Allah. Not only one who is pleased with Allah, but the one who has pleased Allah. Indeed, these examples are sufficient to show how Allah would be so pleased with her. And some more examples tonight also in the course of her life in her marriage. So she derives that name with the effect of that name. It is said, I do not quarrel with the authorities on the point, it is said therefore that if a person, primarily a lady, but I say also male, because her teachings were not confined to a gender, and she was a leader to humanity as much as to ladies. Well, perhaps I do not want those benefits confined to ladies alone, except that they may take priority in seeking those benefits if they so wish, because the benefits were universal. Well, it is said that those people who wish to attain that nearness to Allah, that gnosticism, if you like to put it that way, although I'm not very fond of that word, that spiritual closeness to Allah, if not to attain, but to seek the level of Radiya, to be pleased with whatever Allah gives us, and to reach that level of Mardiya, to reach that level of the Zakiyatun Nafs, the spirituality of the soul, then prayer should be made for those qualities in the name of Fatima Zahra alayha salam. That prayer for these qualities to be attained, if made for the sake of Bibi Fatima Zahra alayha salam, Allah is likely very quickly to give us those qualities for the sake of what she cherished and what she attained. Well, those then are those qualities of Radiyatum Mardiya, and the next one then is Muhaddasa. Muhaddasa is a person who speaks to angels. And indeed, other ladies have been named in Quran who have spoken to angels. وَقَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ لِمَرْيَمْ إِنَّ اسْتَفَاقِي وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاسْتَفَاقِي عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. The angels, and this is in Quran, in Surah Al Imran, the angels spoke to Maryam, express words, and told her, "O Maryam, you are a chosen one. Inna astafaki, Allah has chosen you. Wa tahharaki, and has purified you, and has chosen you over the ladies of the whole universe." ala nisa'il alameen, over ladies of all the universes, if I may put it in plural. Well, so you can see that the fact that angels speak to certain ladies is stated in Quran also. You might recall us having considered, although this was in 1997, how Allah caused angels to speak to the mother of Nabi Musa, when Nabi Musa was to be killed by Fir'aun, and the mother did not know what to do. The angels spoke to the mother of Nabi Musa and said, "Keep cool. Put her in a box, and put the box in the water, and Allah will sail it to safety." And when that box did get to safety, even then the mother of Musa was so concerned. She was in such consternation that even if Musa will be picked by safe hands, how will he be fed? What will happen? Angels came back to her and told her, "Don't you worry about that. Allah has so organized things that you will get back to that place and you yourself will feed your own child." Situations in which Musa's mother was spoken to by angels, Isa's mother was spoken to by angels, Asiya was spoken to by angels, and all these accounts are in the Holy Quran itself. It's not that they are part of any hadith. And we have, alhamdulillah, considered these ayats in 1997, if you recall them. Likewise is the state of Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam, and we get this on the authority of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, as set out in Bihar, that angels would come to her and speak to her. The result was, I do want to mention this as I have in respect of each names, because we agreed we will discuss the names to see the effect of those names in her life as benefiting humanity. The result was that she was able to say in advance what would happen. If a lady came to her and explained her difficulties, she was able to say how quickly she would get well and in what manner she would get well, or how would things affect humanity in days to come. She was able, therefore, to guide, as we all know, Bibi Zainab alayha salam, as to what will happen after Karbala, and Kulthum, and indeed Imam Hussain alayhi salam himself. Those were the consequences of her being muhaddasa. One name that I jumped over yesterday because of the hurry to finish a few more was the third name. After considering Fatima and Sayyida and Siddiqa, the third name is Mubaraka. Baraka is... There is room here. There is room in front if you like to come, doctor. Mubaraka is a person who gives barakah, enhancement, increase. As we talk of business, let there be barakah in the business, that our business may prosper. The one who causes prosperity. And that name was given to Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam primarily because it is through her that the progeny of the Holy Prophet received barakah, received expansion and increase in number. Indeed, when the opponents of the Holy Prophet took pleasure and relief from the fact that the Holy Prophet did not have a son, they called him a tailless person, as is well known. In those days, to have a tail was an important matter. These days, of course, we think differently. These days, what we want are millions in numbers, not in children. In those days, children were equally important. And Quran talks of this too. It says, Al-mal wal-banun, zinatul hayatid dunya. Two factors that are the embellishments of the world are wealth and the number of children. Today, if one had a lot more children, it may not be an embellishment at all. People might say, well, he hasn't had the concept of family planning. But even Quran mentions that particular embellishment of the world. And that appeared to be lacking visibly in the Holy Prophet, that then he was not going to have the children. And immediately the complete chapter was revealed, so very well known to you, and I will not consume your time on it. The chapter of Kawthar, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, fasalli li rabbika wanhar, inna sha'niyaka huwa al-abtar. What is that Kawthar then? A lot of interpretations, and we will not go into them, one being the river in heaven, and indeed, that river in heaven, according to one hadith, has been given in the dowry to Bibi Fatema to Zahra alayha salam. However, we will keep that aside. There is no doubt that that river will be controlled by the Holy Prophet on the Day of Judgment. Abundance of traditions on that from the Holy Prophet himself in books of all Muslims. And only he will be able to drink from that Kawthar, whom the Holy Prophet will allow to drink, and will be served to drink at the hands of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Those are the personalities that will control that particular river. But keeping that meaning aside, the technical meaning, as it were, the ordinary meaning, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, is we have given you plenty. And it will be your opponents who are taunting you today, who will remain tailless. On the face of it, on that day, it was not possible to understand what that ayah said. But it didn't matter, because by then so many verses had already been revealed, which on the face of it, the kuffar were not able to understand on the day they were revealed. But soon the day came when they could appreciate the value and the meaning of that ayah. Well, how then does this come about? It comes about this way, that the Holy Prophet himself may not have left behind male issue, but from her female issue, from her daughter Fatima, issues spread so wide that the result today is that there are Sayyids all over the world. And it is amazing that today you find Sayyids in corners of the world you wouldn't have thought of. You find Sayyids in Sydney and in Auckland and in Houston and in Texas. You find them all over the world in the span of the earth, as the earth has unraveled itself. You do not come across an Umayyad. You do not come across a person who claims to be a descendant, for example, of Abu Sufyan. Well, they have become tailless. That ayah of Quran had to come right, because it is the word of Allah. And so it has. Now that truth, that result, having flown through the source of Bibi Fatema to Zahra alayha salam, one of her names is Mubarakah, that she has expanded the progeny of the Holy Prophet. So there we are. Those are her beautiful names that bring about beautiful results for the benefit of Islam and humanity as a whole. Tonight I said we should this was only catching up with yesterday's agenda. Tonight we wanted to consider her marriage. Because in her marriage there are so many lessons to be learned. First of all, the proposals that were sent to her. There were proposals, of course, from the rich Arabs who had not become Muslims at the time, and who therefore had a motive in proposing Bibi Fatema to Zahra alayha salam. The motive, of course, was to become related to the Holy Prophet, who was canvassing against them, canvassing against their religion. But they had one criterion in them, which was the general criterion at the time, and that was wealth and position. They were wealthy people in terms of worldly money and in terms of worldly positions. Those offers were rejected on the spot. Some of them did not even reach the Holy Prophet, because those who attempted to reach the Holy Prophet with those offers could not even dare reach them to the Holy Prophet. Those ideas became aborted on the way. However, then followed those Muslims who had become Muslims and were companions of the Prophet. Instances given in Kanzul Umal, for example, and I do want to give you that authority in volume 2. And that leading Sunnite authority on the subject, Kanzul Umal, and that's the authority on which I will rely for the purposes of this evening, says that Abu Bakr himself presented himself to the Holy Prophet Now he was a senior companion and said, "Oh, Prophet of Allah, you know my services to Islam and for the long period for which I have been rendering service to Islam." Well, the Holy Prophet says, "Well, what do you want from me?" Because the Holy Prophet now saw that worldly reward is being sought for services rendered in the cause of Allah. So he says, "What do you want from me?" And he says, "Well, I have come to ask for the hand of Fatima to Zahra alayha salam in marriage." And that proposal was not accepted by the Holy Prophet. He was not told a no. The Holy Prophet only turned his face and said nothing. That is how Kanzul Ummal reports Abu Bakr having reported the matter to Umar. And Umar immediately said, "I will try, I will go." And he used exactly those words. "Ya Rasulullah, you know my services to Islam for such a long period." And the Holy Prophet asked him an identical question, "What do you want from me?" And he says, "I want the hand of Fatima in marriage." The Holy Prophet again turned his face. Both of them interpreted that answer to be what it was. Money was not the criterion at all. What wealth the person proposing marriage was not a consideration at all. But one point at this stage that I do want to pause to make is this, that in both of these refusals, the Holy Prophet consulted Bibi Fatema to Zahra alayha salam. And again, I do not rely on a Shiite source for this. Kanzul Ummal mentions this. I look for this because to me it appeared a little uncanny, if you like, a little discomforting, perhaps that is a better word, a little discomforting, that one finds that the Holy Prophet took that decision by himself. He turned his face, but he didn't say no. How did he pursue that matter? Was that decision taken without consultation of Bibi Fatima to Zahra alayha salam at all? Was that decision taken without her being even informed that these messages had been received? Even if that had happened, there would have been no complaint from us at all. Even today, we would have accepted that as a decision by the Messenger of Allah, because who should marry the daughter of the Messenger of Allah would be decided by Allah Himself. It may not be a matter for even the Holy Prophet to conclude. Yet, today we think a little differently. This question of the liberty of ladies has grown to the extent at which Muslims are heavily criticized, and I'm not using that adjective aimlessly, are heavily criticized in the world for getting their ladies, their daughters married without their consent or against their consent. And that system in the Western world is called forced marriages. And the press, the Western press, bloats out, expands that, magnifies that report and calls more reporting of forced marriages. And the allegation is that a father gets his daughter married without the daughter's knowledge, and one day she is flown out of United Kingdom. These are reports obviously from United Kingdom that I'm giving to you. The lady is forced out of United Kingdom, being taken to Pakistan on a holiday. And once she comes on a holiday to Pakistan, she suddenly finds that she's already married to a boy she never knew before, and has to accept that boy whom she comes to know for the first time on the wedding night. Now that is being criticized as an Islamic method of marriage in the Western world. We have been at pains in the Western world, alhamdulillah, and we shall continue to do so to demolish this evil criticism against our religion. We have been at pains to show that Islam is adamant that the consent of the lady must be obtained before a marriage takes place. Indeed, we don't have to go far to establish this. The process of nikah, as you know, is a process that is initiated by the girl. In our societies, nikah is not being recited by the parties themselves, partly because it is all done in English, in Arabic, which the parties are not familiar with. and hence they have their wakils. The bride has her wakil, the groom has his wakil, and we, when we sit as witnesses, we hear these two wakils exchanging those communications. And what does he say? He says, "Ankahtu muwakkilati bi muwakkilika ala al-mahr al-ma'ruf." I have that the one whose attorney I am is married to the one whose attorney you are for a dowry, for a mahr, not a dowry, for a mahr that has already been specified. Those words are uttered by the wakil of the lady, not of the man. And when that wakil of the lady has said that my attorney is married to your attorney, it is at that stage that the attorney of the male says, "Qabiltu nikah." I accept that nikah. The acceptance comes from the man. So not only is consent there implied, it is expressly stated that it is the marriage performed at the instance of the girl. And you would all know, those sitting here, whether you have gone through processes of marriage or not, surely the ladies upstairs would all know that the attorney of the bride is bound, it is incumbent upon him to visit the girl himself, and not to take people's words for it, to visit the girl and take what we generally call her ikrar. Ikrar means acceptance. And it is only if he gets that acceptance from the girl herself and is satisfied that it is free acceptance that he can agree to be an attorney. Those are the provisions in Islam. And Islam does not accept a form of marriage in which a girl is just sent away for marriage, or is just taken on holiday and is then told, "Here you are, my dear daughter, you will get married to Mr. X because that is my decision, because I think Mr. X is a nice fellow." It doesn't work that way at all. It is not a nikah that is valid. We do not accept it as a nikah that is valid. And if the marriage is not consummated in those circumstances, the marriage has never taken place at all. It is void ab initio from the first instance. It never occurred. There is not even the need for a divorce, because that is a marriage that never took place. That is how Islam views marriages in which consent of the lady is not taken. This concept that we are being told about today, that that freedom of women is being given by the Western world, is a totally fake and fabricated concept. Because these concepts of freedom that are being thrown around today have their substance and foundation in Islamic principles. If some Muslims have misapplied those principles, that does not invalidate the existence of principles. Those principles are well established, that can be found in our books written centuries ago, 14 centuries ago. I thought it was important to bring this point home to the youths so that it is known that those criticisms also are totally invalid. And we can see that Kanzul Ummal says that the Holy Prophet went to Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam and informed her that she had obtained both of these proposals from Abu Bakr and from Umar, and awaited her response. The Holy Prophet's reporting is that from the facial expressions of Fatima Zahra, he understood that she was unwilling to go ahead with the marriage. The Holy Prophet did not end at facial expressions, according to Kanzul Ummal. He went, and the Kanzul Ummal, by the way, is written by Ahmad bin Yusuf Damashqi, and according to his reporting of the matter, the Holy Prophet went further and said, "So Fatima, I have not accepted, and I will decline those proposals." And Bibi Fatima Zahra nodded at that stage. It is reported that the view of this form of taking consent by the Holy Prophet was this, that if the girl wants to accept the proposal, she may, in her nature, although this may not be fully applicable to the girls of today, particularly those in the Western world, but certainly was applicable of the girls of that time, may be too shy to say yes. And there are circumstances in which a quiescence of that lady can be taken as acquiescence. But there is no room for her not being able to say no. Shyness will not prevent her from saying no, and she should be able to say no herself. And so the Holy Prophet obtained those no. And then Kanzul Ummal says that other people approached Imam Ali alayhi salam. According to our source, it was his brother Aqil who approached him and said, Ya Ali, why don't you propose for the hand of Fatima to Zahra in marriage, because the Holy Prophet is likely to accept that proposal. According to Kanzul Ummal, it was Umar. But I'd like to put forward that reporting, the Sunnite reporting, because it has an interesting angle to it. Their reporting is that Umar goes to Imam Ali alayhi salam and says, why don't you make this proposal? And he says, well, why do you say this to me? And he says, well, Abu Bakr has already been, I have already been, we have both been refused, and so why don't you? In other words, we have tried our luck. If we could have got it, we would not have asked you to go ahead. But we both haven't got it, so we are happy that you try. I did say there are interesting angles to that hadith. And Imam Ali alayhi salam says, well, I do not want to try because I do not see that I will be granted, I will be accepted. Those words appear also in our source with regard to Aqil. And he says, why? And that answer appears in our source also. He says, for two reasons. One, I am economically unsuitable. I have nothing to offer to a daughter of the Holy Prophet. She is a daughter of a lady of that standing. I am an impecunious person, totally impecunious person. How do I stand in relation to that person? And this is a thought every youth has, that if I am not able to show, not that I have enough money, but that I have enough capacity to look after a girl, that I have a job from which I have enough income to sustain a family, how is my proposal likely to be accepted? That's a valid reason to make one hesitate. And secondly, I am so associated with the Holy Prophet. He knows me too well that I'm even ashamed to make that proposal to the Holy Prophet. Umar's answer to Imam Ali, as reported in Kanzul Ummal, is interesting. He turns round to Ali and says, there is room here inside if you wish to come in, please. He turns round to Ali and says, O Ali, if the Holy Prophet does not give Fatima to you, to whom will he then give his daughter? You can see the level at which Umar has placed Ali. He has placed, for 2-3 nights I have spoken to you, and I was saying I was laying foundation for the nights to come. I was laying foundation to show the level at which Fatima to Zahra alayha salam was, even before she became of marriageable age. That was her level. And Umar says to Ali, if he does not give you Fatima, who else can he give Fatima to? Indeed, the 6th Imam alayhi salam said that had there not been Ali born, there could have been no partner, no spouse for Bibi Fatema to Zahra alayha salam. But those words expressed by Umar carry a specific meaning on the claim that we make that Imam Ali alayhi salam was always the more appropriate person to succeed the Holy Prophet. However, Aqil persuades Imam Ali alayhi salam that this has to be done. Well, and one day Aqil and Imam Ali alayhi salam are discussing the subject when Salama comes in between them and asks them what they were discussing. And when it is revealed to Salama that it is all about proposal and Ali being hesitant to make this proposal, she says, leave it to me. And once at a meeting at which the wives of the Holy Prophet were present, Salama raises this issue and says that Ali wishes to ask for the hand of Fatima in marriage, but is hesitant. He is shy to speak to you because of your level, Ya Rasulullah, and because of how he views himself in front of you. And that is how Imam Ali alayhi salam, as we discussed last year in the first sitting, how Imam Ali always viewed himself with respect to vis-a-vis the Holy Prophet. And the Holy Prophet says, where is Ali? Call him and ask him to say this openly to me. I would like the proposal from his own lips. And so Imam Ali alayhi salam is called in and makes the proposal immediately. And immediately that proposal is made. The Holy Prophet asks Imam Ali the general question that would always be asked. As I said, plenty for us to learn in the way her marriage took place. And the first question that the Holy Prophet asked, as though he did not know the answer, but it is the system, the sunnah that he was establishing. The first question he asked, he says, Ya Ali, what have you got? And Imam Ali alayhi salam, nervous now, because that is exactly the question he expected he would be asked. And that is exactly the question he knew he would find difficult to answer to a prospective father-in-law. Answering the Holy Prophet was different. Answering a cousin was different. But now the situation is in a different spasm of life altogether. And so he turns around and gives a fantastic answer and says, Ya Rasulullah, is there anything about me which is a secret from you? You know it all. And there is nothing that I can, there is room here. Don't please press yourselves. There is plenty of room here, and make yourselves comfortable. And so that is how Imam Ali alayhi salam presents the answer. And the Holy Prophet says, Ya Ali, you give the matter a thought for a day. I will give the matter a thought for a day, and let us meet at an agreed time and place, which was decided then. That question of let us give the matter a thought for a day was only to consult Bibi Fatema to Zahra. Indeed, we know, you know, I know, because we have already discussed this 3 years ago, that when the Holy Prophet had gone to Mi'raj, and this was at least 2 years before this incident takes place, because this incident takes place in Medina, the second year after Hijrah, and Mi'raj was before Hijrah. When he went to Mi'raj, then the order he received from Allah was that he should get Fatima married to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He had already received those orders. Partly that is why, or for a substantial reason, that is why I earlier on had said that if the proposals of Abu Bakr and Umar had been rejected by the Holy Prophet on his own, we would have had no objection, because we would know that in Mi'raj, the Holy Prophet had already been commanded who should be married to Fatima to Zahra alayha salam. However, he performed a worldly duty as a matter of sunnah. This time too he performs that duty, goes and explains the matter to Fatima to Zahra alayha salam, and according to the reporting, she only lowered her head. And the Holy Prophet again did not want to leave words minced, turns round and says, Fatima, I am taking it, I'm assuming that by this silence and you're lowering your head in this way, you are accepting to get married to Imam Ali, and I will accept the proposal. And she says, what Allah and His Prophet do are the best for me. So he got his express words. This is proof that no father can be allowed to marry his daughter to another person without the daughter's consent. That rule is uncompromisable in Islam. Now, taking the matter further from there, when they met, the Holy Prophet says to Imam Ali alayhi salam, O Ali, it is the command of Allah that this marriage that you are proposing should take place. And indeed, I was informed of this on the day of Mi'raj. I asked of your properties. You did not want to answer then. But let us talk openly what properties you have. What a significant discussion. But the answers are of great value to us. And all that Imam Ali alayhi salam could put forward was, says, I have but 3 things. I have my sword, I have my shield, and I have my camel. With my sword, Ya Rasulullah, Badr had taken place. Says, Ya Rasulullah, you know I fight jihads in the path of Allah. With my shield, I protect myself in those jihads. and with my camel I do irrigation to earn whatever livelihood I need in order to sustain myself. The Holy Prophet says, Ya Ali, you will continue to need your sword, as indeed he did. Although in Uhud, as we examined 2 years ago, Zulfiqar had come down already, but Imam Ali's sword remained. Says, Ya Ali, you will, and he did need the sword, because when Uhud started, that is the sword with which Imam Ali alayhi salam went to Uhud. The camel you need, because that is your source of sustenance, that is your tool of trade, and hence you must protect it. What lessons emerge for protection of tools of trade for us? The shield, Ya Ali, you do not need. You do not need it to defend yourself. You will be able to defend yourself in those jihads without that shield. Sell that shield and let me have whatever it produces. And it is reported that when that shield was sold by Imam Ali alayhi salam, what it produced was just 500 dirhams of the time. And even the Holy Prophet said that then will be the mahar of Fatima Zahra in her marriage. Now that was a figure that was laughed at. It was spurned by the Arabs of the time. Indeed, the Qurayshites, who wanted to have Fatima's hand in marriage, now approached the Holy Prophet in Medina and said, Muhammad, you got your daughter married for 500 dirhams? Look at the question. As though these are commodities to be sold for a price. We in this century would ask the Qurayshites that type of question. That is not the significance of mahar at all. And it is a total misconception to view the situation in that way. Different considerations apply in the present age. But the important thing to remember as a lesson from this fantastic episode is that how rich the child is not the criterion at all. Compatibility is the criterion. If Fatima Zahra had been married to a person who was not of that spiritual level, would that marriage have lasted? Would that husband have accepted that wife who would spend the whole night in prayer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Only that husband would have loved to see that, who himself loved to be in prayer all night, in ruku and in sujood. That is the combination that was absolutely essential to produce 11 Masumin to follow one after the other, each of whom would remain in prayer all night, be it the night of Ashura, be it the day of Siffin. That was a chemical combination that was absolutely vital. And a number of more instances of that nature which we shall discuss tomorrow. That compatibility, particularly spiritual compatibility, was of greatest significance. So the education of the proposing party may be of greater significance than the wealth of the proposing party. Those matters ought to be taken into consideration, as the Holy Prophet did. Not the finance of the person proposing, but the compatibility with regard to the daughter being considered, so that the marriage remains in harmony, so that the marriage remains in a state in which both can understand each other. That is the level that is of the greatest importance. And one finds in this marriage, I wanted to say this at the end, but let me say it now because the clock is moving. The result of that matching was that when the time came for the martyrdom of Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam, she is reported to have said that in Ali alayhi salam, I had a husband with whom I had no opportunity ever to be angry. I was never angry to him, nor was he angry to me. I had no reason ever to be disappointed of him, nor he to be disappointed of me. Tell me a girl today who can say that, who for days would remain in Faka because there was no barley at home. It didn't matter. What mattered was that barley went in the cause of Allah. And that mattered far more, because the richness that will grow in heaven was of so much greater importance than that little richness that would feed the stomach on that just 2 or 3 days. Or a lifetime of 18 years. However, one finds that after the speech on the burial, after the burial of Bibi Fatema Zahra, Imam Ali alayhi salam repeats those identical words. Says, Fatima, all her life, not one instance did she anger me on any account. No, was there a day on which she displeased me. Indeed, she never ever asked for even one thing that I could not have given to her. And indeed, on every occasion I met her, whether she was hungry, whether there was food at home or not, whether children had had food or not, her meeting me was in a state in which it instilled happiness and pleasure in me to an extent that I forgot that I too was hungry. Now that is the marriage that comes about with that understanding and that level of spirituality. And indeed, when the 500 dirhams came, the Holy Prophet divided those into 3 parts. He said, a third of these must go towards purchase of necessities of the home, because now they will have to set up a home. And there is a list in the books, which you don't have the time to listen to tonight, of the things that were bought. And when one looks at that list, one finds what a simple life it must have been. There is no name of a bed, there are only mattresses. There is no refrigerator there, even of a kind that existed of the time. There is just a pot to keep water, cooking utensils, simple things that one could see portrayed the simplicity of life that those 2 saintly souls would have wished to lead. A third went that way. A third, the Holy Prophet said, must go towards preparation for the marriage, to buy dress and perfume for Bibi Fatema Zahra alayha salam. And a minute on that, inshallah, before we part with that subject. And thirdly, the third must go to Ali so that he can organize a feast for the people on the occasion of the marriage. So that is the important thing, that mu'mineen be gathered and mu'mineen be given food at a place where mu'mineen can gather. This was done in the mosque by Imam Ali alayhi salam. Mu'mineen were gathered and they were given food on the occasion of the marriage of Bibi Fatema Zahra and Imam Ali alayhi salam. The words of the Holy Prophet being that calling people to a meal is a source of barakah. People meet each other, they have a chance to associate with each other. Love and harmony amongst humans spreads by such meetings, and hence such meetings should be encouraged during weddings. So, social buffets or receptions are not the game in Islamic life. I know it may be difficult because there are pressures that we have to succumb, but society has to change. We as a whole have to change. One individual, I appreciate, cannot bring these things about. Our thinking as a whole has to change. I mentioned this to the youths yesterday. Those who have passed a time at which they have seen these things and have found this a norm are difficult to change. If they are prepared to change, pressure from the ladies makes it difficult to change. This is a reality, no criticism on a basis of sex at all. If there is no pressure from the ladies, there might be a pressure from the friends of the male. But you youths have a new career. You are starting on a clean slate. You can form and mold this society onto a path on which Allah and His Prophet would be pleased with you. Walima in the mosque is perhaps the ideal reception for these purposes, not those organized in which there may be room for sins, there may be room for unpleasantness, there may be room for displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At a time when we pray for the pleasure of Allah, we pray that He should be pleased to bless the couple towards prosperity. Exactly what the Holy Prophet did. And indeed, on the occasion of that particular walima, it is said that Imam Ali alayhi salam had decided to invite his kith and kin and his friends. He found that when the nikah was to be performed, there were so many poor people coming in that he found it extremely difficult to say that the walima will be will be a matter of invitation to only his kith and kin and his friends. So he prayed to Allah that, "Oh Allah, for your happiness, I will invite them all. You give barakah to the food I have prepared." And just as it happened at the time of Hijrah, one found that food, and we get this from Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari, that food that had been prepared for the kith and kin and for his friends was served to practical all Madanites who attended that particular walima. All the poor people of Medina were there to bless that marriage. Who knows whose prayer and whose blessings were accepted by Allah, although the marriage had already been blessed. But the blessings given by those persons meant thawab for those who bless, like salawat being sent by us. They are in a state of receiving salawat and peace from Allah. It is thawab to us that is a matter of great significance. And Jabir says, that is how that marriage went. That marriage of that poor boy who did not have enough to show to his father-in-law is now being celebrated in the glory of the entire community partaking in it. Indeed, Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari says, and this is reported in Yanabiul Mawadda, the Sunni source as well, that never in all my Madanite life with the Holy Prophet did I attend a marriage that went with such excellence as that particular marriage. When the caravan of Bibi Fatema left, there were the ladies, the women, the wives of the Prophet in front, with the wives of those Qurayshites who were refusing to attend the marriage. And we found a caravan taking Fatima to her new home, which we had not witnessed even in the caravans of the millionaires of the time going to their homes. And yet, it was the simplest of marriage. Tomorrow night, inshallah, what I wanted to say tonight. Tomorrow night, I should say, what happened to that 1/3 of money which was spent for the dresses of the wedding? I had a word about how much we spend on the dresses for marriages. Tomorrow night, in the taqwa of Bibi Fatema Zahra, that will be an appropriate subject to discuss as well. But when she was reached there, the Holy Prophet blessed the couple himself, takes the hand of Bibi Fatema into the hand of Imam Ali and turns to Bibi Fatema and says, "Ya Fatima, what an excellent husband you have in Ali." Turns to Ali and says, "Oh Ali, what an excellent wife you have in Fatima." And what illustrious words those were. Words which came true and have remained true till today. The service that the 12th Imam alayhi salam provides to us is testimony to those words of the Holy Prophet. Because it is that union that produced the Kawthar. That union is what produced Hassan alayhi salam, whose life we will discuss inshallah in this very ashara. That is that couple that produced Hussein alayhi salam and the children of Hussein alayhi salam. That spirit of sacrifice to attain spirituality was the spirit that one saw in Karbala. And that is why on the 28th of Rajab in the year 60 AH, when he said to his mother what he wanted to say at the grave, as we discussed yesterday and the night before, that caravan left, but left with this family that was imbued in the spirit to die in the path of Allah. Indeed, each asking, will I not be taken on this journey? And indeed, when Fatima Sughra was told, Fatima, you are sick, you will not join. She cried and she said, Father, why should I be left behind? You can see the spirit of sacrifice. Everybody by then knew that Karbala was a journey for sacrifice. Makkah was only a stopping station. The Ahlul Bayt knew this too well, that ultimately each was going to die and not to return. And this is why Fatima Sughra kept saying to everybody, if you are going, bid me farewell. But all ladies who are going to come back, you will not find me here because I will be dead by then. I will not be able to survive this empty house at all. And that is how she bade farewell to everybody. And yet when the time came, when they did come back, they did find Fatima Sughra there. Except that Fatima Sughra did not find everybody there. She goes, for example, in the laps of her mother. and in the laps of Bibi Zainab looking for a little child. And she ultimately says, where is Sakina? Where is Sakina? And she is told, Sakina is left behind in Damascus. She couldn't take the journey, and she passed away without enough water, without enough food. She passed with the head of her father on her chest. She says, well, the will of Allah, but where is Asghar? Why don't I find Asghar anywhere? But when she is told that even he was darted with the arrow of Urmala, she also exclaimed that even that 6-month child old was darted in that way. 2nd of Muharram, tomorrow was the day when this caravan came to Karbala. The moment the caravan reached Karbala, the first duty Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam had was to set up tents. As the commander of the army, he obviously took the best place on the banks of Furat, on the banks of the river Euphrates, and set up the tents there. When asked, he said, we will need water. I know these Umayyads. I know what happened in Siffin, because Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was there. Although at a much younger age, they will deprive us of water. I will block water from now before they even reach here. And so he did. But the 4th of Muharram was to come, when Umar ibn Sa'd comes with the letter from Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad saying that if Hussein has kept his tents on the banks of Euphrates, those tents must be removed, and they must be removed so far away from the river Euphrates that even the cool breeze of the river should not reach the children of Hussein. And when this order came, Abbas alayhi salam drew a line on the sand and said, this is the dry line Abbas has drawn. Dare anybody cross the line, and I will kill him. Then none of these tents will be moved. Imam Hassan alayhi salam hears that cry of Abbas, knows Abbas means business. Abbas knows we need water. Abbas knows what he is doing, and so he will not move. He did not want to contradict. Abbas himself calls Bibi Zainab and says, Zainab, Abbas, that lion by his name, is now totally unruffled. That Asad I will not be able to control. You go and tell him to remove these tents. And when she goes and tells Abbas, remove these tents, don't start this battle, he explains to his sister why he has done it. And Zainab says, Abbas, I understand that too well, but the orders of Hussein are that this battle must not start on the excuse of water. Water after centuries will be made the excuse for this battle. Don't let this excuse take place. Remove these tents. Can you imagine with what hands Abbas would have removed these particular tents and carried them further away? Irony of history, in a week's time Abbas is told by Hussein, oh Abbas, go and bring some water for these children here from that very Euphrates which you wanted to protect on the first day. Abbas sets out, and it is that one arrow that splits the mashk of Sakina, and the moment that mashk is split and the water oozes from it, Abbas says, I now have no reason to survive. And the spirit of Abbas, ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة.